So today's subject is Van Gogh's chair. The original chair that's represented is in a painting. And the reason I didn't choose the painting is that the chair itself looked a little bit rough and I felt that it would be distracting. So this is kind of a replica. And last year they had this really cool exhibit at the Museum of Fine Arts, the Van Gogh exhibit. The exhibit itself was okay, but they had a section where they had recreated some of the scenes from his paintings in his home. And it kind of looks something like that, where they had the chairs and the little bed. There's something really quaint and fun about his interiors. So I chose this one, which is a replica, staged of the chair, because it just looks a little bit clearer for us to be able to draw that. But I definitely want us to kind of get it a little bit more rickety and kind of put our own touch in it, make it look old, make it look a little wobbly. But I think for us as a reference, I think seeing something clear like that is a little bit better. So I'm kind of going to start doing this black and white images for you when we do the drawing. I just think it really helps you see the tones a little bit better and how colors translate when they're in black and white. It helps you see your darkest areas. It helps you see the soft edges versus hard edges. So whenever you're doing anything that's going to be man-made or has straight lines and angles, you are going to need to use some perspective methods. The one thing I don't want to turn this into is sheer perspective. So remember that perspective is your friend. It's just a method. It's not actually there. It's something that we use to keep everything in line. So we want to just implement it loosely, and then we're going to have fun with the rest. So I thought for the chair, a fun shading technique would be hatching. And hatching is when you put lines next to each other. The more lines you have, the darker the area will appear. So it's not cross-hatching. Cross-hatching is when the lines cross. Hatching is just the lines being next to each other. They don't have to be that methodical, but that's the idea. And I thought it would be really cool to kind of do different directions for the seat of the chair versus the wood. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get the form and the perspective out of the way. So you want to think of the chair as a box. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a simple box, and we're going to fit the chair in it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the line, the chair leg that is closest to me, which is going to be the middle one. And I'm just going to do a line over there. Let me do it a little bit darker so you can see. Okay, I'm doing it a little bit longer because I want to use it as a perspective guide. And the next thing I'm going to do, so you've got the, so this is the middle leg.
Can we switch over to see what you're doing actually? Can we switch to the other camera?
Melissa, can you switch them to the iPhone? Sorry.
Sorry, I'm working on a cake over here. So I got into my work.
Okay, so I'll redo this step so you can see it. So, okay, so what I did, now we have 4 legs on that chair. Okay, so we've got 2 in the back and we have 2 in the front. So I am starting with the one that is the closest to me. Okay, and it is the left front leg. Okay, so what I did is I did a line that's longer than the leg, because that's going to be the base for us to use perspective guides. Again, your line does not need to be this dark. Anything that I'm doing a lot darker so you can see it, but you don't have to. In fact, when you are first establishing a drawing, your lines only need to be dark enough to where you can see them. Okay, so we've got the chair going into almost like 2 directions. So this side is going this way and the other side is going that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put 2 markers. I'm going to do them in red so you can see them. And again, they don't have to be at even heights or anything. And what I'm going to do is, so everything that is on this side is going to follow this line. Everything on that side is going to follow this line. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create okay. So this is kind of where everything is going to fall. Okay. Now, ideally, these lines should be further apart so the perspective is not too steep. So, but because we have challenges with the camera, they are going to have to be here. But usually just pick a point of a place you're drawing, and then another point, say, you know, okay, that's going to be pointing to the doorknob, that's going to be pointing to the light switch, and you can use those as guides. Okay, so the first thing I want to do after establishing my space is I am going to decide on the height of the legs. Again, my guiding line is this leg that's closest to us, the left front leg, okay? So I think it probably ends around here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it some shape and thickness. It's got a nice little rounded bottom, okay? And what I'm going to do from here is I am going to, so this is going to decide how long the rest of the legs are. So I am going to decide how tall this leg needs to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from the top and a line from the bottom. So the leg is going to fall somewhere here. So depending on how, you know, wide you want it to be, you can move it, slide it back, forwards or backwards. Okay, again, I'm just going to move my point a little bit because this is too steep. Okay, so again, I have the two guiding lines. That means that the leg is going to be anywhere within this triangle that I'm getting. So I would say it's kind of somewhere around here. And you can see that it has a slight curve to it. I actually did not really notice it in this one. So I'm going to put it here. So I'm going from the top to the bottom of that line. And I'm just doing a slight curve. So I'm going to go back to this one and just give it a slight curve. It probably has less of a curve because it's facing us. And again, this is where, you know, your own vision will come into play, and you can make it more or less curved however you like. Okay, so I'm going to do the back left leg. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to find the area that it needs to fall within. So I'm going again from this is my base. This is kind of what's guiding everything. And I'm just going to do the line. So I know that the leg is going to fall somewhere within this triangle. Okay. And if you look at the picture, you can see that this one, because it's further back, is going to be closer than this one. Okay. And again, this one is going to curve outwards. Give it a nice little curve at the bottom. See how easy? I have 3 legs now. Okay. And then I'm going to establish this one. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, there's so many different ways you can do it. What I'm going to do actually is I am just going to eyeball this one. So it's because I don't want this to turn into a whole technical lesson. So we can see where this one is, and we have this one, and then we have this one. So it falls higher than this one. It's kind of in the middle between these two. So I'm just going to put it in. Just kind of using the common sense factor. Okay. Of course, if you wanted to do it, you can do it the same way that you did this one. If you're, you know, adding other elements, you can also do them that same way. I prefer to get to the juicy stuff, the shading and shaping and giving something personality. So I'm also going to put the bars that kind of join the chair. And again, you know, they are following these lines. So you don't want to put it this way. As long as it's kind of following in the direction of everything, you should be fine. Actually, I'm going to make this just a little bit longer. Okay. And then the other one is kind of going into, I'm going to kind of use the negative space over here. And then in the back, it's kind of going straight across. And then we've got this one down here. Okay. Let's take a look and see what everyone has. Okay. Is everyone following so far? Any questions?
Everyone's unmuted if they have a question.
Looks good, yeah. Anyone else want to show me or not yet? So again, let me just stress the idea that, you know, some people want to do very technical drawings, but, you know, I think it can get a little frustrating. I'm just trying to teach you enough perspective to where you can use it and it can help your drawings. You don't want it to confine you, and you don't want, you know, following those lines and angles to be more important than, you know, the piece itself. Okay, so I guess we will go back and do the rest of the chair.
Noelle, we can't, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so we're going to go with the rest of the chair, and we can see that you can see a little bit of the seat. We're not seeing that much, so you can see that there's an angle here. And it's not really sharp. You're not really seeing a lot of sharpness. So I'm actually going to just kind of shade that in a little bit so we can see it being standing out. Okay, so you can see that the back of the chair also has a curve to it. So what we're going to do is we are going to, and then and it stems from the back leg, and then the right side is going to stem from the right leg, okay? And we can see that there's a slight angle at the top. We're kind of the top of the seat. So I am going to just put in that curve. Okay. And then for the other one, see, this was a good guide. It's kind of going to help me decide on how long this one is going to be over here. And this one, because of the angle, just it looks a little bit more straight. Somebody's not muted, I think. Okay, so at this point we can see that this line that we had was not, Melissa?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I think you're unmuted.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. We have to see that cake. Okay, so this one looks a little bit more straight because of the angle. And then we have the two bars that are in the middle, and also they're kind of following this line. They have a slight angle to them. And they're kind of towards the middle. And again, you know, don't make your lines too straight. I think that's a little bit too angled. Don't make the lines too straight because you want to make sure that you know, we want it to look old, want to give it, you know, a little bit of personality. And I'm looking at I think I angled them too much. I'm just going to make them look a little bit more straight, even though they kind of want to follow that line, but I think they're a little distracting. Okay, so I'm going to do the top of the chair, which has a little bit of a curve to it. And since this side is closer to us, I'm going to have the angle of it kind of peak. And, you know, again, let's say you're drawing this from, you know, from memory. You just have to kind of make sense of the shapes and where they are. Okay, so this line in the middle was our guideline that we used. So you want to make sure that, you know, you kind of get rid of that if you do have it. Mine is pretty strong over here, but you know, that is not part of my drawing. So I think now we can kind of just forget about getting the overall perspective and shape. I think everything looks good. And now we are going to have some fun with the cross hatching. Sorry, the hatching. So just kind of doing this as just a tribute to Van Gogh's work. His brush strokes and his drawings, everything just had a kind of a roughness to it. So it'd be kind of cool to do some, you know, some really quick and kind of strong lines. Before I start doing the shading, I am going to shape. So I want you to look at the reference, and I want you to look at your drawing, and I want you to just start just giving it a little bit more shape. Also have fun with it. You know, if you want to add something to the chair, you can. We're going to define the seat a little bit more. I realized that we did not put the planks that are under here. Okay, so I am going to start shaping, and then I'm going to start shading. All right, so let's do that. So to shape, now we can start going darker. Make sure that you constantly check what you're doing. And I can see there's kind of some darker areas where the supports of the chair are. And you can check the spaces between the legs, and that will also help you get that shape down a little bit more accurately. Kind of just trimming some of those lines, just getting them to be a little bit more. You can see a little bit of the top of this leg, and also a little bit over here. Okay, now this is going to be a fun, the seat is going to be a fun area to work with. And again, it's a woven, you know, seat. So also make sure that when you're putting in those lines, even the lines that surround it, that they're a little bit softer, because, you know, this is, what is it, rattan or straw, or I can't remember, rope is going to be softer than the wood. So make sure that, you know, your lines are not as severe as what's in the chair. Okay, I'm going to go up. Okay, so anywhere where you have two pieces joining, you're going to have darkness. Also, you're going to have a little bit of a darker line underneath a piece. See over here where they join, you're going to have a stronger line. Over here where they join, you're going to have a stronger line. And once you start putting in your darker lines, you can see that it's starting to pop a little bit more. And then, but also when you do that, make sure that you are adjusting. Don't just darken a line that's already exists. Think of it as a completely new line. And that's one very important thing to kind of, you know, keep in mind, that you are not just darkening, but you are adding a line. Because every time you add something, you are improving upon the shape, the perspective, and everything that's in there. Okay. Kind of feel that this needs a little bit more curve to it. And I feel that this over here just kind of is popping out a little bit more than I wanted. So I need to go back and fix that. And when you're not erasing, you know, the trick is to just start going just darker in those areas. Okay, so let me fix this leg. It looks a little too thick. Okay, so one thing I want us to do before we go, before we move ahead, this is gonna kind of make it look like it has weight and show the placement, is we are going to do the dark areas that are underneath the legs. These are called tension lines, and tension lines occur wherever two things meet, just like we did over here, but we're gonna do them under the legs, and, you know, just give them just a slight kind of pull out wherever you're seeing that shadow go. Again, because we're using hatching, which is lines, I'm just using some lines. They're going to start off a little bit darker, then they lighten up. Okay, so you can see that that kind of is showing the weight of the chair. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start shading. And before we use our lines, our hatching lines, I want us to just give some soft shading to the areas that are darker, and that will help emphasize those lines even more. Now, if you're in a hurry and you're just doing a quick sketch, you can skip that, but you know, our subject is kind of, you know, small today. We don't have a lot of details, so we can do that. So I'm going to look at the darkest areas that there are, and I'm just going to give it some soft, just circular, smooth shading, like over here, underneath the seat, just anywhere where you're seeing, like this back leg is darker than the front legs because it's kind of towards the back. This side of the chair has a little bit. And again, what this is going to do, this is just going to give you a ground for the hatching. So you can see like this right leg over here, like it's almost like the right half of it is light and the other is dark. So I'm going to do that just a little bit. Okay. And now I'm going to start my hatching, but let's see what everyone else is doing. Can you unmute? Melissa, can you unmute them? Melissa?
They're unmuted.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm not on my game today.
That's okay. But they're frozen for they're
They're not on my end. Can somebody say something?
I'm here.
Hello, okay.
Okay, I can hear them, but okay, now they're releasing. Okay. Anyone want to show me?
Yeah. Okay. The shingle's kind of covered.
Oh, Susanna, that looks great. That looks great. Just make sure that the top of the chair, especially on the left side, that you just give it a little bit. It has just a little bit more of a protrusion on both sides. Just give it a little bit more of just a little bit of a raise, just to kind of help give the shape a little bit more. Anyone else? Sharon, can you bring it closer? That looks really good. What do you think?
I like it, but let me show you. Oh, well, I'll send it to you later. I just kind of
Okay.
freehanded it yesterday,
Okay.
and for some reason, I think I did pretty well. But I had it in the very light turquoise blue.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you can see anything there. Can you see that or not?
No.
Okay, well, I'll fill that in and
Yeah.
send
Yeah.
it
Make
later.
sure you send
I
send
actually
it to
like
me.
my freehand better anyway. But I'm
Well,
glad
you know, sometimes when you're not thinking about it, and again, you know, if you're drawing something, you don't have to put in the lines. It's good to know how to do that, because when you do need to do perspective, then you can do it. I was doing a really complicated painting a while back that had a dinner table with 10 people, 11 people in it. And I had to do this really long dinner table, and I had to fit it in a way on the canvas that, you know, you could see everybody. And I mean, that was probably the first time in a very long time that I actually, you know, pulled out, extended some paper and put some vanishing points and perspective lines. Without it, I could not have fit it in. So
oh no, I was looking at it today and I was wondering how you were gonna get us to do it, and I'm really glad to have
Yeah.
the technical aspect. Yeah,
It's really helpful. I mean,
uh-huh.
and again, like the way I started it off, you know, if you have a strong start, like we had, the bottom part is in perspective and everything else can follow it, it does help.
It really does.
Yeah, good. Anyone else? Andre, how are you doing?
I can't help but feel that I've stared at this chair in art books, you know, since I was a kid. You know, I'm like, oh, I'm drawing the chair that I've been looking at for, you know,
I know.
50 years.
Cool. Yes. He lives on, yeah. Andre, how are you doing? Anyone else? Phyllis, you want to show us? Phyllis is frozen for some reason. Carol, can we see? Oh no, we don't have Carol. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to, we're going to start doing the hatching.
Okay, hang on, Noelle. Let me mute everyone.
Okay.
Okay, Noelle, unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm going to also move this a little bit closer.
All right, there you go.
So we can see. Okay, so I moved this a little bit closer so you can see the hatching. So I'm going to start with the seat. And so my source is actually kind of far from me. So I honestly am not seeing details. I'm just kind of trying to make sense of it. So it seems like this part is going kind of in this direction, and these, so it's almost like the weave is coming you know, from the sides and going in. So again, we're doing the hatching, and I am going to just start putting in lines. Again, I'm looking at my source, and they are consistently kind of, the same distance apart, but the ones over here are going to get a little bit closer together because they're further away. And then I'm going to do the ones on this side. So these are going to follow kind of the angle and the line of everything else. And the rest I'm not really seeing, so I'm just going to just give them some value with the hatching. And if they cross, that's totally fine. Okay, so this is going to have a slightly different feel. My hatching lines are a little bit more rounded because we have a contour. A contour is a rounded area. So I'm going to go to the legs, and the legs have a little bit of a rounded shape to them. And then it seems that like this front panel doesn't, and these are straight. So I'm going to show you kind of how we're going to treat these differently. So I'm going to go up here. So I've got my hatching lines. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to treat them down here. So I'm going to have a little bit more of a curve. And again, having the ground underneath kind of helps a little bit. So you can see the difference between the two treatments. I mean, also hatching can be done lengthwise. I mean, it can be done in any direction. The only thing is that you want to make sure that, if you're shading in an area, that you keep those lines in the same direction, but they don't have to be in the same direction all throughout your drawing. So actually on this one, I'm going to just give it more of a horizontal hatch. Gonna do that with the bottoms. And it's kind of fun to have contrasting lines. I'm gonna darken this over here where it joins. And also over here, I'm going to give it a horizontal. So when you have horizontals next to verticals, you get a nice contrast, in your drawing, and it just works really nicely. So actually over here, so I've got horizontals here. I'm going to go with a vertical. And this is going to be a vertical. And again, I do have kind of a dark area over here where they're meeting. And make sure when you're hatching that, you connect your lines. So like over here, kind of just imagine that you're wrapping them around. Melissa, I think you're, we have your background sound. No? Somebody.
No, mine was muted.
Oh. Okay. Somebody else. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go up here. Again, if you're trying to make something look darker, just put your lines closer together. Flip sides. And then, you can do different sizes. If you have a small area that you really want to kind of emphasize, you can, like for example over here, just do a different set kind of on top of it. Over here. And also when you hatch, you don't have to hatch it all the way through. Like this area over here, I didn't hatch everything. It doesn't have to be, you don't want to turn it into a pattern. So make sure that your lines are thoughtful. I feel that this needs just a little bit more definition. So this is kind of what it would look like. It needs a little bit more work. Just wanted to give you an idea of how to use hatching and using it in different ways. So again, with hatching, the basic technique, and I'm gonna do it to the side, is you are using lines, and the closer those lines get together, the darker the area is going to appear. So that's actually how you create the shading. Okay, if you are working on a surface that is flat, your lines are also horizontal or vertical. And then if you have something that is rounded, let's say like when we did the tree trunk or these legs, you're going with a contoured line. And just with, you don't have to do it everywhere. Sometimes less is more when it comes to hatching. And hatching is also really fun to do with an ink pen. So if you were wanting to do this in some kind of color, or if you wanted to do a limited palette, I think like browns and golds would be kind of fun. So I'm just gonna show you a quick this would be really fun with cross hatching. You can add maybe a little bit of image.
Noel, I can't hear you anymore. Noel?
Can everyone hear
I
me?
couldn't hear you the last 10 minutes. It's okay. Thank you. Never mind.
Was it everyone or?
No, me. I don't know about the
Oh.
others.
Huh, maybe your
I've been
audio.
able to hear you.
Huh?
I've been able to hear you.
Okay. So again, let's try and see like if we added, some of the color. And again, you do not need to do that, but if you wanted to incorporate some color, it would be cool to go with those tones. If you wanted to carry this further and, show some of the tile, I'm just gonna really quickly show you how, this would look within a room and the setting. I'm just going to kind of do this so you can see the chair. And I did forget to work on these, this bar over here in the back. It's so funny, sometimes I'll be painting and then I'll realize that there was a detail that I completely forgot about. But that's why it's important to step away from your work. I'm gonna do a little bit of the wood slats. And again, I'm showing you this because sometimes it's kind of hard to see what something looks like when it's in vacuum. So just showing you very easily how you could. And of course I have all my scribbles and instructions, but this would really be something that, I would kind of keep because it kind of just looks cool. Put a little bit of color. I'm almost out of time. Just showing you different things that you can do that will will change how something will look.
Oh, man.
Giving you some ideas. Okay, so let's unmute everyone. Okay. They're not unmuted. Do they need to unmute themselves or?
Oh,
Hi, Noel. I have an injured thumb, so I didn't do it, but I've been watching.
Okay. Hi,
Thank
Carmen,
you.
how are you? All right. Melissa, I don't know why some are muted and some are not. Okay. And
You may have
Phyllis?
to unmute yourself. I unmuted everyone, but
Okay. Phyllis, can you unmute yourself?
but pretty much everyone's unmuted.
Okay, now everybody is. Okay. So what do you think? Any questions? Any observations? Susanna, can I see yours? Oh, that looks really good. Are you using a pencil? Very nice, Susanna. What did you use, a pencil or a colored pencil?
The pencil, just a regular.
Just a regular pencil.
mechanical
Okay,
pencil.
looks nice.
Yeah.
Sharon, can I see?
Yeah, it's okay.
That's more than okay. That looks really good. And I like how it has kind of the soft lines. I mean, it looks like it's a handmade chair, and that's kind of the effect that we were going for.
Yeah,
Phyllis?
I didn't use a ruler or anything. I decided.
Yeah, you really don't need to. I mean, unless you're doing something that is highly technical. And what I want you to do, all of you, is Google Van Gogh's chair, the painting, and you will actually see that it's really rickety. I mean, it's almost like I wanted to teach him a little bit of perspective. I mean, maybe the chair itself was not straight, but you will see why I did not use the original one, because I just felt that it just kind of was bothering me a little bit for this lesson. So just make sure that you look at it. I think it has a pipe on the chair or something. So make sure you look at it, and you'll see how using this version kind of just helped us get it a little bit more together. And Edie, you want to show me? No?
oh, wait.
Andre, you want to show me? Really good. That looks good. Yeah, the hat.
It's a little bit out of.
It's the top part. And you know, the thing is, if we had much more time and we wanted to do it all in perspective, you know, ideally we would want to do the top part, also have it follow the lines, but I just didn't want to turn this into something that it's not. So the way I'm doing the drawing classes is, so the class structure is going to be
Oh,
one
wait.
one week
I
drawing.
I dropped my head earphones.
Okay,
Oh, my God.
there you go.
Oh, she
Can you
dropped
hear me?
her phone. She dropped
Okay.
her phone.
So 1 week we do drawing and 1 week we do watercolor. And with the drawing, one week we do something that has structure and we do a little bit of perspective like today. And then 1 week we're doing something that is a little bit more, you know, organic, like when we did the calla lilies. So, and also the same thing for the watercolors. And this way, you know, you'll just get a good, well-rounded idea of how to do things, because, you know, I'm sure many of you want to do some things on your own. And I think we'll always have preferences to things that we want to paint, but I think having the knowledge of how to do something and being able to put it into, let's say you're doing a landscape and you have this little barn there, and you did this beautiful landscape, but your barn is not in perspective, it's gonna really distract and pull the quality of the work down. So knowing how to do different things is really helpful. And one of the most important things that you can do on your own time is go beyond your comfort zone. Do things that you're not comfortable doing, because that's the only way that you will really advance and learn. But I'm amazed at how just everyone is doing, and I just love seeing the results afterwards, because it's kind of hard to see on the screen. Does anyone have any questions or observations? Oh, I miss everyone. Phyllis is still working hard. I can see her.
I just feel like I'm able to draw lines better, you know. It's just practice, practice, practice. I mean,
It is. It really is. I mean, and you know, I'll be honest with you, even for me, just doing this session and doing subjects that I haven't done in a while, I haven't revisited, it's making everything else that I do stronger. I mean, no matter what your level is or where you're at or your experience, it's just every time you draw, every time you paint, you are polishing those skills and you're always learning something new. So I think you can only get better. And even if you have work that you're not happy with, don't destroy it, put it away, hide it for a while, and then come back and look at it. Because you have to remember, when you're working on something that is challenging for you, all you can see in the drawing are the parts that did not work out. And when you revisit, you will be able to see all the other things that you accomplished in a picture. And that is one thing that I started learning as I got older, is to never, destroy a piece or tear it or be mad at it. Just put it away, because I am only focused on what was frustrating. I did not see all the other great things. And there's something to learn from that. So I think we're just about out of time. And again, if there's any ideas or certain subjects that you would like to see, just, send me your ideas. I'm always looking for interesting things. Just bear in mind that, we do have the challenge that it has to be something that will work, from an image. We're not really able to do stuff from life, because then that would be a third camera for me. And if I ask you to have an apple, everybody's going to have a different apple. And so we do have our limitations. But if you have any, specific things that you would like to work on, maybe we could even do like an iconic portrait of someone, like Elvis or Marilyn Monroe, or I don't know. I mean, somebody that we all know and doesn't offend anybody. So, also, I'd love to hear your ideas, and send me your pictures. And I love you all and miss you. And I will see you next week.